Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome back to the Connecting EU Insights Winter Edition. We are today in our second day. Yesterday we started with two very interesting events. The first one dedicated to digitalization in the morning, and in the afternoon a very funny chat also between Fernando Liesa, that is the Secretary General of ALICE, and myself as manager of the Docks the Future Port of the Future Network of Excellence. This morning we are changing a little bit to a subject that is really top in the agenda at EU international level. We are going to talk about energy transition. We know very well that ports are becoming more and more focused as energy hubs, not only as a connectivity hubs. And we know very well how many alternative fuels input potentially the shipping sector has in their hands, but how much it is difficult to realize what's the best choice for the future. In order to discuss about that, we invited top-level experts from industry, academia, and practitioners. And of course, we picked also a very high-level moderator, that is Patrizio di Francesco, that is RINA Principal Engineer in Northwest Europe and Special Project Manager for Alternative Fuels and Decarbonisation Initiatives. Patrizio, for over 14 years, has been dealing with the classification of ships as surveyor, piping and automation engineer, being involved in LNG fuel ships, new construction projects, as well as retrofit of energy efficient technologies. Today is in charge of the classification of innovative projects for the integration of LNG, LPG, methanol, ammonia, hydrogen as fuel, as for installation of battery, shore power connection, and fuel cells. So really covering all the spectrum of alternatives we have. So it was for sure a very good choice for the moderation of this. So without any further delay, I wish you a very nice listening. I hope that you will enjoy. And I give the floor to Patrizio. Patrizio, the floor is yours, and have a good event. Bye-bye. See you later.
Thank you very much, Alexio. It is really an honor to be here and to moderate this event, because during the last years, of course, I was involved in many projects. And I see that such events are really important in order to increase the level of collaboration between all stakeholders. I would like to make a short presentation, and then, of course, we will give the floor also to all other panelists, because they have also very interesting subjects to be shown and to be explained. So I hope that everyone can see my screen.
Yes, confirm.
Yeah, and of course, I prepared a very short presentation, considering also the time at disposal, but I would like with you to fix some very important points for dealing with the energy transition and with the decarbonization strategies. So today we are here because we choose an alternative future for us. We choose a different future for us. I suggest to read this book because it's really really nice. It's a positive book. Is a book which is giving some insight about the next phase of the human evolution. The most important thing and the most important takeaway of this book is, of course, the collaboration. And once again, I really am happy to be here and to, let's say, to be part of this important process and try to give my technical knowledge, but also my ideas to all the people who are attending to this webinar. As you well know, IMO settled the emission reduction targets in the shipping, and the baseline for this emission reduction are those based on emissions coming from the period 2008. We will have that carbon intensity will be reduced by 40% by 2030, and then greenhouse gas emissions shall be lowered to 50% by 2050. There were at IMO level a lot of discussions, a lot of considerations which were given from several associations, owner associations, or also no-profit organization association who are dealing with environmental hazards and risks. Europe set the different targets, but somehow we have to figure out in the future, we don't know when and where, full decarbonization. This is the European Green Deal, which, so the timeline of the European Green Deal and the climate law. As you can see, recently it was presented the EU Fit for 55 package, which is a very important milestone for Europe. And the main idea is to come to greenhouse gas emission by at least 55% comparing to 1990 levels by 2030, and then to come to 90% reduction of emission. This is mainly on transport. We have an important project at European level, which is the Clean Transport Project. And this project is aimed to give to the member state guidance on how to deploy alternative fuels infrastructure. Of course, when we are talking about alternative fuels, we are talking about methanol, we are talking about methane, ammonia, ethanol, hydrogen, and also biodiesel. Another let's say important part of this process, of course, is the application of the electrical power supply, of the shore power connection. So possibility that ships can switch off their engines during their stay in port. Nowadays, as RINA, we see that the future will be multi-fuel futures. Of course, probably there will be not only one fuel for everyone. And we see that in order to build up a net zero ecosystem, we would need to adopt several alternative fuels. Here in this slide, you can see how RINA is committed in order to collaborate with all stakeholders to give classification services as well consulting services for all type of alternative fuels, but also technology. So you will see here a fuel cell, or we can see here a shore power connection, and also we have renewable energies, hydrogen fuel station, bio-LNG. So we don't exclude any fuel. We, as RINA, we believe that we should be ready for every possible kind of fuel. Today's, it's quite clear that there are many solutions. There will be one solution which will fit for all purposes, for all shippings. And another important, let's say, takeaway is that the shipping industry will not be the main player to take the decision on the fuels that will decarbonize the sector. So let's say that the shipping is more following, which are also the trend in the industry. As RINA, once again, we believe that we should be prepared, and we are doing it in this way. So we have 4 regional decarbonization committees, 148 companies member worldwide, 5 working groups, and we are dealing with the fuels, alternative fuels, of course, emission trading system, EXI, CI, and technical aspect relevant to the optimization, let's say, of the fleet performance, but also the the navigation. So in order to get to the IMO target, we would need to let's say work on 3 different levels. So the first one is of course the possibility to have carbon neutral fuels. The second one is of course trying to have technological improvement. So it means optimization of the current technologies in order to have a more efficient machineries, for instance, or more efficient hull and so on. The third level is the operational measures in order to save fuel, and this is an aspect which cannot be neglected, and indeed it's really, really important. Here we are talking about trim optimization, we are talking about aids for forecasting the trips and the sailing routes of the ships in order to save fuel. So another part which is quite important is the rules framework. As RINA, during this year, we completed all most important class regulations in order to certify, of course, the technology, but also to certify the ships. And in this case, we published already the ammonia regulation and LPG, LNG, hydrogen, methanol. They will be published before Christmas. And for the next year, we have in focus also the nuclear. To be noticed that some of regulations like LPG and LNG are already considered at IMO level, but there are other alternative fuels like ammonia and hydrogen, which are still only in the agenda of the IMO, but any international regulations are established. Of course, as RINA, we are also giving information notice about all amendments on regulations, but also information on how to, let's say, to deal with sustainability strategies and decarbonization roadmaps and so on. When it comes to cold ironing, during this year, we are mainly proposing to ports, of course, a third body inspection in order to verify the shore power connection. And because we believe it's really important that the interfaces, of course, always and usually in a project. And in this case of the cold ironing, of course, we have the ship and we have the port, which for the first time they has to be interfaced, let's say, in a more deep way, sort of cabling, power connections, and so on. When it comes to special projects and also to, let's say, to not only to cold ironing, but for other projects dealing with alternative fuels, the risk assessment is one of the key to succeed and to execute for the execution also of the project, because as you can understand, the risk perception is always quite high when we are talking about something which is unknown, and the risk assessment is the tool allowing us to rationalize this fear and identify the risks and the hazard in order then to get familiarized with the new technology, with the alternative fuel, and all the new operations which should be considered on board. And for the time being, that's all. I would now give of course, the floor to the next panelist, which will be also a very, let's say, a very nice presentation coming from Inge de Wolf, who is a project coordinator of Pioneers, and She is working in the Port of Antwerp since 2013. She is one who is outlining the strategy and the role as an energy hub of the Port of Antwerp. So she is someone who really knows what is going on at port level. So please, Inga, if you would like to jump in to do your presentation, of course, we will be really grateful.
Okay, thank you, Patrizio, and good morning, everyone. I will start screening first the slide deck. Okay, could you just confirm if you see
I confirm.
my screen presentation? Okay, good, very well, thanks. Okay, sorry. Just click through the slides as well. Okay, so you still see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Patrizio and Alexia, for offering us the opportunity to present Port of Antwerp's mission and strategy towards energy transition, which indeed you pointed out very well is also top of mind of the Port of Antwerp. And I would also like to take the opportunity today so to highlight how we are working on this currently, and also in my role as project coordinator of Pioneers, just take a few minutes to present this Pioneers project, which we have kicked off very recently and also relates to this topic. Maybe as a quick intro on the Port of Antwerp, some key figures and facts. I will not go into detail of all the numbers, but very important to point out is that the Port of Antwerp, as second largest port in Europe, hosts the largest chemical cluster in Europe, making us a very energy intensive platform, and also responsible for a lot of CO2 emissions, 80 million tons CO2 per year. So one might say that we as a port are part of a problem here, but we are actually really reversing this and making us more a part of the solution and thinking of solutions and working on innovations to bring solutions to the table by setting up innovative projects. And this is what we would like to discuss with you throughout this presentation. So the Port of Antwerp's mission is to be on the road together to European port strategies that reconcile people, climate and economy. This is translated into our ambition to become a climate neutral port by 2050, in line with European Green Deal, Paris Climate Agreement, and very recently the Fit for 55 package. So greening our activities internally, but also on the port platform, is cross-cutting in our agenda and in all the projects we're undertaking. It's also integrated in our business plan since a couple of years, and this actually contains 3 key targets: sustainable growth, targeted transition, and resilient port. So we definitely see a very important role for ports to play here as a crucial link in making global supply chains more sustainable, and also making society more sustainable. So when we speak of in very relating to today's agenda. When we speak of energy transition, we definitely see this as a joint effort, not only by business partners on the port platform, but also beyond the port platform. And we see it as very important to build coalitions and partnerships of partners who are committed to take action. We see this decade as a very important to make a shift, and that's why we are currently undertaking so-called Lighthouse Projects, which are actually strong coalitions of pioneers to introduce new technological concepts to the port platform. So just to highlight a few of them is the import of green hydrogen, which will become very important. We have also invested in a heating circuit, which has given green light this week, actually, to reuse residual heat from companies on the port platform in a first step to provide other companies, and later also provide heat to the Antwerp city region in the north. We have 69 wind turbines in the Port of Antwerp to supply green energy. We have built a steam circuit on the left bank of the port to exchange heat between companies in chemical processes. We are actually demonstrating also a project to produce green methanol. And of course, we're also looking at making our own activities greener, and hence we're investing in tugboats running on methanol and hydrogen. And this slide actually brings me then to the core ambition of the port to remain actually an energy hub, but becoming a green energy hub of the future. So over the past years, Port of Antwerp developed an energy hub function for a large part for the Western European hinterland. Today, this energy is still mainly based on fossil fuels, and to make the shift to more renewable energy, we see a very important role for hydrogen. It will become a very important game changer in the energy transition, in the shift from fossil fuels to renewable energy. And ports can play a very important role here in the import and export of green molecules. We're actually situated in a region, Hungary, for energy. So together with other main ports in the region, we are definitely committed to take a very important role here. Hence also the merger with the Port of Zeebrugge, which will become a reality next year. Both ports, Antwerp and Zeebrugge, are very well located to take up this ambition and towards this energy transition. And then, as outlined in the introduction, I would also like to take a few minutes to present the Pioneers project to you. So Pioneers is a project under the Green Ports and Airports call, and kicked off very recently in October. It's a cross-border consortium together with 46 partners, where Port of Antwerp will function as a lighthouse port, where most of the demonstrators will be tested, showcasing as such a real-life green port. And of the 46 partners, we have also 3 other leading ports on board, the ports of Barcelona, Constanza, and Venlo, and they will play a very active role in maximizing the transferability of the solutions and to implement the best practices of the project. about the ambition of the Pioneers project, it is to showcase actually concrete solutions by testing demos on the port platforms to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in ports, while very importantly also at the same time safeguarding their competitiveness. So we started in October, and the project will last for 5 years. And here you see the slide with all the 46 partners of the consortium. It's a very diverse group representing ports, as I mentioned, but also terminal and transport operators, forwarders, knowledge institutes, technology developers, innovators, and even also public entities. And this slide then visualizes the work that will be done the coming 5 years. It's a very ambitious project, rethinking all aspects of port operations, going from innovation scouting to defining the risks and the requirements. For the demo projects, it will become important to scale up the demo projects and maximize the transferability of the solutions to implement best practices from the project to other ports. First of all, the 4 ports in the consortium, but later also after the project to other ports in Europe. And this will then eventually lead to developing a Green Ports Master Plan in the Pioneers project, which will be a kind of blueprint or a roadmap towards how green ports in the future should look like. So, but the first step will be to develop the demo projects, and there are 19 demo projects in this project relating to 4 different areas, which you see visualized here at the bottom of the slide. So the first one is about implementing solutions and innovations related to green energy production, distribution, and supply. This includes actions as renewable energy generation and deployment of electric, hydrogen, and methanol vehicles. The second one is sustainable port design, where we will implement green logistics operations and circular and low emission building techniques, including hydrogen heating for buildings, for example, greening of straddle carriers, implementation of circular economy approaches in infrastructure works. Third one, very important in port environments and ecosystems, is modal shift and flows optimization, both focusing on passenger as well as freight. So it's including the deployment of digital platforms to promote modal shift and optimized vehicle, vessel, and container movements. And then the fourth pillar covers solutions and innovations related to digitalization. So quite an ambitious package for the coming 5 years. And then my last slide actually brings me to the Pioneer stakeholder community, because yeah, it will become very clear today also, and that we're not the only ones, of course, setting up demo projects and working on innovations towards energy transition. So we have set up, or we're setting up, it's actually a very early stage at the moment, but it will become very important as this decade is extremely important to take action and to move forward. And this can only happen if we work together and share ideas and understand also common interests and the needs of other partners. So therefore we would like to interact with other ports, other partners. We're working in this area on projects to interact with the Pioneers partners, and as such become actually a part of this stakeholders community. So if you would be interested to join us to get more information throughout the project, please reach out to us. You will find my contact details at the end of the slides, and the slide deck will be for sure shared with you after the conference. So do get in touch, and we will be happy to discuss this throughout the lifespan of the project. So if you would be interested to follow us, you can indeed follow us through social media. You can also have a look at our brand new website, pioneers-ports.eu. It's still under construction, but it gives you already a first glance of the project. And if you would like more information, or if you have any questions after this presentation, yeah, just drop them in the chat or contact me through email. And then I wish you all a very I thank you first of all for your attention, and then I wish you a very pleasant continuation of today's conference.
Thank you very much, Inga. It is a very, very interesting presentation. And of course, at least from our side as RINA, I can tell you that probably you find a new stakeholder for your community. I would be very, very happy to listen more about this project. And of course, then later on, we can, in a separate meeting, have a chat. So now, because of, as usual, we are a little bit in a delay. I would like to present the next panelist, who is Dimitros Liridis from the National Technical University of Athens. He is a professor. Of course, it's important that, as I said before, the VUL community is involved. So also the universities are very important key players. And Dimitros, so you have quite huge experience on transportation economics, shipping, finance, energy, supply chain management, security, environment. We will be very pleased to listen from you. Please, to all panelists, keep in mind that we have just 10 minutes for everyone, and try to stick on that. Please, Dimitros.
Okay, hello. I don't know why I can't start my video. It shows
maybe do you have other application opens, like other meeting?
Well, I can just switch off Microsoft Teams, but
there could be a conflict from
okay, just stop it and I will try to start it again.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will just, yeah, I don't know why. No. I thought it worked earlier, but let me check. Yes, now it should start. Yep.
Okay, now it works.
Yes, okay. So switch to different camera. Okay, I'm sharing my presentation now.
Yes, please.
Yep. Can you see?
Yes, please put in presentation mode.
Yep, you should be able to see it now.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really glad to be here and present a little bit our idea of holistic energy port upgrade, which helps very much the energy transition of ports and logistics to a more greener operation. And I will present the general idea and one application we are doing in the Port of Antwerp today. And I hope I can do this in the next 10 minutes. So the 4 things I would like to discuss today is the modern port challenges, the energy upgrade, what it consists of, regulations, and the case study. So what are the major port challenges of today in the specific areas? In terms of the environment, the major part is that many vessels are concentrated in a very small area, and sometimes the geography, the local topography of the area, like for example, Piraeus in Greece, you have mountains around the port, so emissions do not escape. They just go up or stay in the area. And you have not only visible, but also invisible pollution, which consists of the NOx emissions, which are very harmful, but they're not greenhouse gases, but they're very harmful for health, and also noise. The major problem is that the generators that operate during the vessel, the time the vessel spends in the port, they operate outside the optimum region of operation, so they're even more polluting. And of course, there are major challenges faced by the new ports, and they consist of the highly innovative services they will have to offer, starting from onshore power supply to vessels, the cold ironing mentioned earlier by the previous speaker, but also charging vessels when they operate with batteries, when they have electric propulsion, charging also the vehicles at the port, and use, of course, all sources of energy, from batteries to renewable energy sources or hydrogen, and integrate them in their day-to-day operations. And these are challenges for these ports. Eventually, ports becoming, as the previous speaker also mentioned, energy hubs, where they also, among other things, not only exchange energy, but they also trade energy. They become microgrid operators. There is a two-way energy flow from the port to the city and from a city to the port. And in that sense, ports may also peak save energy demand in the port or in the city. So we have a two-way flow. And these are all technical and legal challenges. What is an efficient energy upgrade, a holistic energy upgrade in a port? We have here a small slide that shows all energy consumptions in the port. So the port may, according to standards, have to study how to do cold ironing for vessels berthed at the port, and some vessels like cruise vessels may have a requirement, a power requirement of almost 20 megavolt ampere. That means 15 to 20 megawatts during their port stay, only for the accommodations for large cruise vessels. And if you have ports where you have, for example, 4 or 5 cruise vessels berthed at the same time, you can imagine what power requirements this entails. You may have renewable energy sources storage, batteries or fuel cells. You may have electric cars that need to be charged, and you may also have batteries charged at the port and then given to vessels for propulsion. There is a large potential from renewable energy sources in the port, which may cover some area of the port, like photovoltaic panels on top of buildings. These are energy sources. You may have to charge vehicles and in small parking areas. You may need to consume energy for reefers, containers. You may also change the lighting to smart and eco-friendly lighting, LED lighting, remotely controlled. You may have power energy production from the regenerative brazing of cranes. And of course, the port may also trade energy, buy and sell electricity. They need to manage all this energy flow. And they may also have long-term contracts, short-term agreements with energy companies and with vessels where they buy and sell the project. The port will become eventually a grid operator, and at some point they will have to choose whether they are a grid operator or an energy trader in selling and buying electricity. This is what we envision as one platform that deals with all these aspects, all sources and all consumptions of energy flow in a port. And we're usually discussing electrical energy, but production of electrical energy may be from the grid or from various sources. We have, as a team, we call it the Proteus team, we have participated in a set of actions in the last few years, from basic cold ironing systems already installed in one port in Greece to the current project we're discussing that concerns the holistic energy upgrade, but also to other cold ironing studies across Europe, the E-Link project. And we also participate as a team to various committees in Greece, in the EU, and in EMSA and in IEEE for standardization of the technical requirements for onshore power supply. We have also done a lot of work for the regulatory authority regarding the regulations and how the various obstacles presented by the regulations can be overcome. There are certain, understandably, very high benefits to the public health, to the reduction of emissions in port, to zero emission solutions in port, reduction of noise and vibration, quality of life, employment, because we have new technologies and new requirements, and integrating of renewable energy sources to the port energy flow. And of course, there are economic benefits from such an upgrade that relate to the trade activity, the port competitiveness, the integration of the port of the city, of the grid of the port to the city grid, preparation for introduction electric and hybrid ships in the future, promotion of sustainability, especially for ships for the medium and small distances that can become essentially fully electric or hybrid. And this also changes the mentality of a port into more into adoption of new technologies. One of the biggest problems in these cases is not the technical. There are technical difficulties, especially when we're talking about so high energy demand from vessels, but major obstacles come from the various regulations, not only the standardization regulations, but also the regulations of the state, the EU in this case, that has specific rules about the market of electricity. And one of the biggest problems is that the two cases, the handling of the grid and the trading of energy have to be unbundled according to the European regulation, in which case one port has to decide whether they will become a grid operator and they will just charge for the flow of power through their grid, or they will become an energy trader, in which case they cannot control the grid, but the grid has to belong to somebody else. Which of the two commercial models the port will choose is a big question that has to be done through a feasibility study. We're currently in the regulation, in the regulatory framework, trying to find a solution where a port is a specific case and maybe a derogation or a specific adjustments may need to be taken specifically for ports, because at the time being, this is not a problem that has been solved, and it is a problem throughout Europe. If we want to promote electricity and greening of ports, this is something that has to be dealt with. And of course, trading of electricity per port has one additional problem to ship owners, that sometimes they face much different charges for electricity from one port to the other. And this is something they cannot regulate. The entire idea of holistic energy upgrade of ports has been applied to the port of Igoumenitsa, which is one of the 5 core ports of Greece, with connection with major traffic from Greece to Italy, to the Adriatic. It connects another core port from Greece, and it connects to Trieste, Venice, Ancona, Bari, and Brindisi in Italy. They have regular daily traffic, especially for Ro-Ro and passenger vessels from Greece to Italy. And vessels remain at port for some time during the night, in which case it will be essential for them to plug in during their stay. But please note here, I will just give you an example. The entire energy capacity of the port is about 4 to 5 megawatts. And if you have one of these vessels berthed at the port, it may require 1.5 to 2 megawatts of power during stay. If you have 4 Ro-Ro vessels berthed at the port and they plug in at the network, then the whole area will go offline, as you understand. So apart from the legal problems, we also have some technical problems. And in this case, the grid operator has to allow for a larger capacity. The Alphion project, which is the culmination of this effort and the application of the holistic energy upgrade in the port of Igoumenitsa, consists not only of the cold ironing, but the provision of battery swapping, because from this port, small vessels make a short distance to the island of Corfu, a few miles across, in which case they can operate on batteries. And here we have a provision for batteries to be charged onshore and then delivered to the ship for propulsion. But we also allow for vehicle charging stations throughout the port, energy storage systems, batteries or fuel cells for the hydrogen produced from renewable energy sources. And what the project does is it develops the energy management platform that does this optimization of energy flow, connecting and optimizing the flow of all energy sources and all energy consumptions. And the last part of this project has been the cost-benefit analysis, which is required when we move to the second phase of implementation of this solution to this advanced looking port in the next phase. The project has a small budget of about 1 billion. It has been funded by the Connecting Europe facility, and apart from the port that coordinates, the Hellenic Electricity Distribution Network Operator participates because we need increased capacity. Two companies, one dealing with electricity and the other dealing with studies on ships, participates. And of course, we as Laboratory for Maritime Transport for the National Technical University of Athens, we also participate as beneficiaries to this action. And I think this is all I had to show to you. I am open to your questions. And I am really glad I was able to present this in this forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dimitros. Also, this one is a very interesting presentation. It's giving a quite clear overview.
I would like to apologize because I will need to go in a few minutes, so I will not be able to participate in the last Q&A session. But if somebody has any questions, my email is given in the presentation. They can email me and I will answer all their questions offline.
In fact, I would suggest that people can, of course, write the questions in the chat, and these questions will be collected and can be also separately answered in a later stage. So, Dimitros, of course, if you will have some questions related to your presentation, you will be informed about.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you to you. And then we go to the next presentation. I am quite glad to announce that my colleague Stefano Barberis from RINA Consulting will have also, he is a project manager, he's an engineer, and he will have a very nice presentation about the sustainable technologies for future long distance shipping towards complete decarbonization. So the title seems quite promising. Please, Stefano.
Good morning, everybody, first of all, and thanks to Circle to invite us today to this meeting. Thanks also to you, Patrizio, for the nice introduction. My name is Stefano Barberis from RINA Consulting, and I'm here today to present you the first results of Engimonia project. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, but please, can you put in presentation mode? Okay.
I think that's perfect. Thank you. What is Engimonia? Engimonia is a European funded project, just started in May 2021, whose goal is to promote sustainable technology for future long distance shippings towards the complete decarbonization of vessels. When we talk about sustainable technologies, we talk about both alternative fuels, and particularly, as you may imagine from the title, ammonia, as well as the promotion of clean energy technologies that we already tested and demonstrated for terrestrial application, and that thanks to Engimonia we will bring on board of vessel. Why ammonia? And what is industry saying about ammonia? Ammonia is in this moment let's say, searched by different type of industry, not only in the maritime sector, also for what it was to be used as an energy vector for renewables, power to ammonia storage application. But it is getting more and more interest in the framework of maritime application, mostly because it can be seen easier to be transported and accepted on board, considering that it can be stored at lower pressure and let's say in more easy to handle situation. So first of all, we always have to remember that ammonia is not a hydrocarbon, because it is a fuel without any type of carbon in its molecule, and let's say it can be easily burnt in the natural gas engine via a sort of mixed dual fuel application. Nevertheless, to do so, internal combustion engine used on board of vessel must be, let's say, thoroughly revised, because ammonia is a poor engine fuel, and ignition and combustion needs are considerably different, even if we compare it to methane, to natural gas. And also because even if it is not a hydrocarbon, so even if it is not producing any type of CO2, of course, it is producing other type of pollutant. One of them is N2O, which has a GWP, global warming potential, that is 130 times higher than CO2. Of course, the amount of emission are lower of N2O if compared to CO2, but what is important to say is that yes, ammonia is a clean fuel. It can be the energy vector of the future to store renewable, and therefore producing a renewable green ammonia for, let's say, vessels, but not only. But at the same time, we have to consider that it is not an easy acceptable fuel, because of this topic of, let's say, not being fully clean, and also because of the topic that this is a toxic substance, and as it has an unacceptable odor even in low concentration, having on board large quantity of ammonia can be an issue in terms of handling and safety. Nevertheless, as I said, it has intrinsic facilitation, for example, if compared to hydrogen in terms of storing on board without pressurized equipment. I'm here today to present Engimonia, that in looking at RINA overall strategy that my colleague initially introduced, Engimonia is a part of this overall RINA decarbonization strategy of port and shipping sector. Indeed, we really think that port can become a sort of polygeneration energy hub for our Europe, for our continent, and at the same time, they can be polygeneration hub where both green fuels are produced and used, and the ports can become therefore the connecting dot between the production of green fuels and their usage in the maritime sector. As I mentioned, ammonia can be indeed also used, for example, to realize fertilizers. Today ammonia is mostly used to produce fertilizers. So looking at alternative off-takers of ammonia can boost the production of green ammonia all around Europe as energy vector of the future. And as I said, Engimonia is promoting this, let's say, this topic in the overall RINA framework, RINA decarbonization framework. As I was mentioning, Engimonia has mostly three main objectives. The first one, three main R&D lines. The first one is to make ammonia combustion really zero emission. So as I mentioned earlier, there is a drawback in burning ammonia, that is the production of N2O, that at the end of the day is a GWP pollutant, high GWP pollutant. So one of the goal of the project is not to develop ammonia engine, but to develop an exhaust after treatment system that can make ammonia engine really zero emission. The second R&D line, as I mentioned, is to demonstrate clean energy solution already tested for terrestrial application on board of vessel. Among them, there is the promotion of, for example, waste heat valorization from engines to cooling and to power via adsorption chiller and ORC, respectively. And also the third R&D lines, that is an R&D lines quite relevant for RINA, is the promotion of replicability and the investigation of how to replicate and how to promote the use of ammonia in European ports and vessels from a regulatory and policy and naval classification point of view. All these three lines are all contributing to the overall project objective that is, of course, as I mentioned, the decarbonization of shipping. The project has different objectives. I already mentioned them earlier, but what I would like to highlight is that this is a demonstration project. Indeed, the goal of our project is to bring on board of vessels our solution, particularly when we talk about the clean energy technologies that we are promoting. And as a demonstration project, as let's say also the first step of a market introduction of ammonia in European vessels, further than the study of exhaust after treatment system for dual fuel ammonia natural gas engine, we will also study how to facilitate the bunkering and the refueling of ammonia in European ports. And to do so, we will be supported by the Port of Genova, that together with us is involved in the team of Engimonia. So the project, as I said, has a clear and precise roadmap that pass through a phase where we are now related to development of technologies and exhaust after treatment system up to the test campaign and the replication and promotion phase, where we will study how to bring to the market from a regulatory and a business model point of view all the innovation of the project. I think that more or less I already told all this issue, but sorry, all the points that are present in these slides, but I would like to say that one of the key topic of the project is also the dissemination as we are doing today, and also the stakeholders engagement. So for us, it's crucial to collect insights from shipping companies, vessel owners, port authorities. So it's very important for us to understand if at the end of the day, the technologies that we are going to develop in our project can be practically acceptable and can be accepted by the social, by the general audience, but most of all by the stakeholders that are operating in ports. And therefore, I'm very happy to be here today in these events to create this connection between Engimonia and European stakeholders. As I said, the consortium is very industry driven with a strong participation, particularly of vessel owner. Indeed, as I mentioned, we are targeting to demonstrate on board of our demo vessels the technologies developed in the project, particularly the clean energy technology ones that, as I said, are adsorption chiller from Fahrenheit that will be demonstrated on board of a ANEC Lines ferry in Greece, valorizing the waste heat from the engines. ORC that are valorizing waste heat from engines towards the production of power for onboard consumption. And this is a unit that will be developed by Orkan. And also a structural photovoltaic. What is structural photovoltaic? Let's say photovoltaic surfaces made in composite, already tested maybe for building integrated photovoltaic. And we will try to implement and test applied to structural part of the vessel. And this technology will be brought by the Spanish R&D center named Tecnalia. Parallel to them, there will be an optimized management of all this technology provided by Metis and Sistema. As I mentioned, the project has a clear overview of 2030, a clear roadmap to market in 2030, also to tackle all the IMO and IGF decarbonization challenges that we already discussed. So as I mentioned to you, we are very interested to get in contact with all of you. So please take a look of our project on our project website, www.engimonia.eu. And please follow us via our social media. And as I mentioned, the participation and interaction with stakeholders is very important. So more than glad to receive questions, more than glad to, let's say, create a connection between us towards the, let's say, the good result of the project. Thanks everybody for your time.
Thank you very much, Stefano. It's a very interesting project, of course, and I am really proud that we are fully involved on it. So the next panelist, we have Hege Auckland. Hege, if you are ready, maybe you can start to share video and also presentation so that we can a little bit save time. Hege, of course, is the CEO of Norwegian Center of Expertise, so Maritime Clean Tech, which is a cluster with more than 150 partner companies. Please, Hege, go ahead.
Thank you so much, and I hope that you can see my screen now.
Yes, but please can you put in presentation? Okay, now it works. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And also thank you to all the previous speakers. I hope to build upon some of the former presentations and also to make some examples of concrete innovation projects when it comes to hydrogen as a fuel and also ammonia. Yes, my name is Hege Auckland and I am the CEO of a cluster organization called NCE Maritime Clean Tech. And with the energy transition we are now facing and the speed needed for this transition, collaboration is needed across and along different value chains. And that is really what our cluster is all about. We were founded 10 years ago, and our main goal is to increase our partners' competitiveness by developing and launching energy efficient, low and zero emission solutions to ocean industries. The main stakeholders are represented in the cluster. For instance, ship owners, the public sector, the industry, and of course also the ports, which the previous presentations have mentioned, having a crucial role in this transition. And by having also close access to test facilities, capital, and end users like ship owners and operators, we can reduce the risk and time in the innovation process, and of course reduce the risk and the cost for the final solutions. Just to have this as a background, the main drivers for the green transition in the shipping industries and the main drivers for the implementations of zero emissions fuels like hydrogen and ammonia and electricity are the following stakeholders. We have the regulations and politics, IMO, but also at a national level, European level, and also we see here in Norway more regional levels. And of course, the expectations of cargo owners and consumers will be pushing the industry in a greener direction. And we hope to see more of this in the next coming years. And finally, access to investors and capital, setting criteria of low or zero emission investment or in their investment decisions is of course crucial for the market development of this technology. Here is an overview of some of the ongoing projects in the cluster. And as you can see, we are demonstrating zero emission solutions on a range of different vessels. We started with short sea shipping, bringing on board batteries and making them zero emission. And as many of you may know, almost or over 70 ferries in Norway are now electric and are operating along the Norwegian coast. And we also now see that high-speed vessels are being requested to be zero emission. And of course, for the shorter routes, this is possible. But we need to have other energy carriers like hydrogen to operate the more energy demanding and longer routes. We also have other vessels like service vessels, fish farming vessels, and so on, where we have installed electrical propulsion. And in this presentation, I will showcase some projects for the more long-range operating vessels, where we have introduced hydrogen and fuel cells, and of course ammonia. To succeed in this transition, we need, as the previous speakers have also mentioned, we need to drive testing and piloting to secure that the technology is safe and reliable. And of course, also we need to have shipping contract incentives for the ship owners to do investments in this technology. And finally, the availability of these fuels is of course crucial, and then we need to build out infrastructure on a global level to compete with fossil alternatives today. And this is a huge job, and we are in the beginning, but we don't have much time. In Norway, the government has stated that emissions from inland shipping should be reduced by 50% within 2030. And IMO has stated that the carbon efficiency should be reduced to 40% by 2030. So we have 8 years to implement a lot of new technology and build out new infrastructure. So now I will dive into some of the projects which is part of a European partnership, and 3 of the projects are funded by Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Joint Undertaking, which was a program under Horizon 2020. And the TRAM project is about electrification of high-speed vessels, so I will leave that for now. But the 3 other projects, the Ship FC project, the Flagship project, and the High Ship project, is about developing and demonstrating new energy system with different hydrogen alternatives on board. The High Ship vessel is a cargo vessel, which will be running on liquid hydrogen, but will also have the function of distributing liquid hydrogen on containers along the coast, so that other vessels can can make this liquid hydrogen available for other vessels as well. And this project is the High Ship project is coordinated by Wilhelmsen, and Maritime Cleantech, our organization, is heading the communication and dissemination working package. The Flagship project is there are 2 pilot projects or demonstrators in this project, and this is about demonstrating compressed hydrogen on fuel cells on board cargo vessels, and one of them is operating in Paris on the Seine. VTT, the Finnish VTT, is coordinating this project. And the Ship FC project, which I will go a little bit more into details on, is the world's first high-power ammonia fuel cell on a vessel. And here, Maritime Cleantech is coordinating the project on behalf of a consortium of European partners, as you can see here. The demonstrator is a platform support vessel owned by the ship owner Eidesvik, and the ship will be in operation for Equinor, who is also supporting this project. Wärtsilä is the system integrator, and Prototech will be developing the solid oxide fuel cells. And we also have Yara, which will provide green ammonia for this project. It's a very clear criteria in this call that it should be green ammonia. So this project will also help building out a new infrastructure for green ammonia. The fuel cells, which I mentioned, will be scaled up and tested on a test center called Sustainable Energy. And we also have 2 Greek ship owners, Starbuck and Capital Executive, who will have used this project to transfer the design and learnings to their vessels. And we have also, of course, research partners like Demokritos and Fraunhofer and Strathclyde. So this project is very industry driven, and the demonstrator will be in operation with ammonia fuel cells, 2 megawatt from 2024. And here you can see the operational profile of the vessel. It will serve platform installations in the North Sea, and it will come into the harbor in Mongstad, which is an offshore base, which will also provide the infrastructure of ammonia. So the goal of this project is to prove the case for long-range, high-power, zero-emission shipping. And we truly believe that ammonia can be a very good alternative for these vessels, both directly in combustion engines, which was mentioned in a previous presentation, but also together with fuel cells. And the operation of a 2 megawatt solid oxide fuel cells for over 12 months, that is close to zero emission, is a very clear goal in this project. And we need to also prove the case for a scalable, large-scale zero-emission fuel infrastructure through a realistic business model. And then, and therefore, we are very happy that Yara is on board the project. Yara is now setting up a production facility of green ammonia in Norway, together with Statkraft and Aker, and they will produce green ammonia by electrolysis to the maritime industry. And a green ammonia fuel cell that can be further developed to supply green ammonia globally through use of existing infrastructure. Ammonia is now today traded globally and is maybe a fuel which can be more easily built out on a global infrastructure. Yeah, as I mentioned, we don't have much time until we reach 2030. And this shows some of the demonstrator, which will be up and running the next 4 years. I can also mention that the Norwegian state has put into operation the world's first car ferry operated by liquid hydrogen. The ferry is now ready and is in operation with with batteries, but the hydrogen system will be verified and set into operation during this winter. And we see that a lot of knowledge and technology can be transferred to other vessels. And I mentioned the ship, now we're going into the Ship FC project, which will be in operation in 2024. And we have also the flagship projects going into operation in 2022, together with a lot of other demonstrators, which you can see now in the cluster. I just need to stress out that it's so important that we use this time period to test and demonstrate zero emission technology on a range of different vessels, to showcase to the market that this technology is reliable and safe, and then we can have the political decisions saying that this is it's possible to set up zero emission criteria along the coast and in the fjords, for instance. So I think this was all from me for now, and I would also like to answer any questions that you might have, and I trust the organizers to send them to me. So thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ege, for the presentation. I like very much this approach, which is typical practical North Europe approach, which I fully agree. Buying in Germany since many years, I appreciate a lot, let's say, this approach. The next panelist is Mr. Christian Lezaik. He is a desk officer for waterborne transport. Christian, if you are ready, I would give the floor to you immediately so that we can recover maybe a little bit time. Please think about so that we have just 10 minutes. Are you there, Christian? You have probably to...
Yes, yes, hello, you hear me?
Yes, quite well now.
Okay.
We can see you.
Okay, very good. Just a second. Hello.
Hello.
Just a sec. I will start sharing my screen. Just a second. Do you see the presentation or not?
Not yet. We see just your desktop, I guess.
Just a sec.
With the lady running on the beach.
Would it be possible that you share?
Yeah, we are going to manage it.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so thanks a lot for inviting me to speak at today's event. I've been listening very carefully to the presentation of the previous speakers, and they're really interesting and and ambitious. So we are staying out of the EU, as I'm following the representative of the Norwegian industry organization. So I will present today the extended climate ambitious and the port industry in the Western Balkan maritime ports. I come from the transport community, as Patrizio mentioned. So that is an international organization based in Belgrade, Western Balkans, which aims to integrate the transport markets of the Western Balkans 6 regional partners to the EU in terms of a key transposition, in terms of supporting partners, and of course reaching the 10T standards as the most important goal. One of the, of course, most important things to mention as a background is the European Green Deal, which has been portrayed from the European Commission as the chance of the generation. I think you're all very well familiar with that. So what I want to highlight here is that the EU can also and should use its influence and expertise and financial resources to mobilize its neighbors and partners to join on this sustainable path. And the Western Balkans, as the direct neighbor, which is embedded geographically in the European Union, is definitely the area which we need also speeding up of these activities. And this is what we are working for together with the regional partners, and in particular, of course, with the core ports in the Western Balkans. You also are very much aware that the EU Smart and Sustainable Mobility Strategy has been published by the European Commission, that it sets out the roadmap and identifies flagship areas which will then contribute through the legal instruments by 2050 to reduce 90% of the transport sector's emission. What we did in the transport community is also that we developed our own document, our own, let's say, mirror strategy, and that is the Western Balkan strategy for sustainable and smart mobility. This goes well in line with the green agenda for the Western Balkans. If you can just put to the next slide. And the green agenda is in a way a tool which is there to promote the climate and environmental agendas within the regional partners of the Western Balkans. This region is also suffering from severe air pollution and little energy diversification. So what we did is also to, as I said, mirror the Western Balkan according to the flagship, according to the milestones. And if we see the maritime dimension of the EU Smart Mobility Strategy, we know that there's two flagship areas which are directly related to cutting emissions in, let's say, ports and maritime industry. This is the flagship 2, where often today already said the EU wants to see the ports as clean energy hubs with integrated electricity systems, and on the other side also wants to see the increase of usage of environmentally friendly modes such as inland waterways and maritime, meaning short sea shipping, which should increase by 25% by 2030 and 50 by 2050. These are very ambitious targets for the EU itself. So in terms of Western Balkans, what we did is to adapt them a bit and let's say decrease them, because it is a bit unrealistic that the Western Balkan ports and maritime sector could actually get to those levels. But nevertheless, what is important is that all of the regional partners of the Western Balkans agreed, and this strategy was approved by the Ministerial Council, meaning the 6 transport ministers of the regional partners of the Western Balkans. And within our maritime part of the Smart Sustainable Mobility Strategy for the Western Balkans, if you can have the next slide, what we did is also to put some proposals, some guidance, what the ports, for example, could do. So we have 2 core ports of the extended TEN-T network to the Western Balkans, and those are the ports of Dures in Albania and Port of Bar in Montenegro. Currently, these ports, as many of the European ports, are still non-compliant with the TEN-T indicator of the availability of the clean fuels. However, with our action plans that we had also for waterborne transport, and with the continuous cooperation with the regional partners and the ports themselves, we also propose that the Western Balkan maritime core ports should also join some of the best practices initiatives, such as EcoPorts, which is developed by the European Seaports Organization. And I can gladly say that the Port of Dures actually became an observer member to ESPO this year. What we also are continuously working on is to enhance the cooperation with the coordinator of the Motorways of the Sea, Mr. Kurt Bodovic, because we also see this potential to increase the maritime freight dimension within the Western Balkans maritime ports. And we will try to do that also with applying concrete projects in the Motorways of the Sea dimension as the maritime leg of the TEN-T policy, cooperation with Italian ports, Croatian ports, the Greek ports, in order that, first of all, the Western Balkan ports get the experience and the know-how to which then they can maybe apply to some other funding instruments. As for the ports themselves, first I will just shortly present Port of Dures and what are their current plans. So it's important to mention that both of the ports, especially the Port of Bar, but also Port of Dures, are very active through Interreg projects. There was a project which is called SUP-AIR, which was finished in mid 2020. And through this project, action plan was produced, where focus areas have been identified, such as as we see here, revitalization of green spaces within and outside port areas, recycling plan, mobility plan for Dures port staff, and clean energy investments for renewable plan for the port. So I just want to say that as the financial resources are limited, and as the EU is going with really high speed, as mentioned many times today, because we are racing with time, what needs to be said is that the Western Balkan ports are aware of the limitations, aware of the timelines, and they're really doing their best, and we are helping them in achieve the start of the process of the greening of the ports. It's definitely not easy, but these kinds of projects, such as the Super, is definitely the good start. The next slide presents also this action plan that was developed through the project. And I just want to say, for example, I'll just highlight a few of them. In terms of the things that can be done already quite quickly, and which are maybe relatively small steps, such as the waste management plan in the port, employee and environmental training, recycling seminars, to define how the transport in the port area will also be able to organize in order to reduce emissions. And so these are some small scale projects which can be done in order in the framework of 1, 2, 5 years. Whereas if you can just lift it up a bit, the slide in terms of the onshore power supply, the Western Balkan, that's the last row in the table, they will need up to 15 years still in order to consider onshore power supply. But I think that is very also important that they are planning this investments, they are thinking about it. And yesterday we had the new TEN-T revision unveiled. We will have a new corridor, Western Balkan European Transport Corridor, which will give it more political importance to the Western Balkan European future in terms of transport, of course. And the new deadlines has been set for the extended core network up to 2040. So we believe with these plans up to 2040, which we have here up to 15 years, that the Western Balkan core ports will also have the alternative fuels availability. Okay, so the next port in the next slide is the Port of Bar in Montenegro. As I said, they also participated in the Super Air project. They developed their own plan, which is a bit different than the plan of Dures. It's shown in the next slide, where they developed measures which they then put in a filter, and so that the finalization can be whether it's top, medium, or low priority. So once again, some of the top priorities, meaning that they will be implemented in the coming years, not decades, means that they will put priority to energy management system in the port, emission reduction goals. So first of all, to develop a scheme and then to reduce emissions. In terms of environmental employee training, also they will try to do switching to LED lighting within the port area. So these are all maybe tiny steps towards greening of the port and Western Balkan ports also in the future becoming hopefully energy hubs. So we see these small scale projects as very, very important. And of course, once the plan is there, if there will be financial means through any of the EU funded programs, either e-Power, Interreg, or CEF, limited possibility, they will definitely use that. And once again, in terms of the LNG and availability of alternative fuels within the port, for now, it's still a low priority for these ports. The next slide also shows a very interesting project, which the Port of Bar is still implementing, and that is called Project Enernet Mob, where through this project, they will install electric charging station. They will also buy an electric car, which will be an official car of the Port of Bar. And this is also, once again, a very good example by ports being the pioneers, being the ones who are setting the standards on where the city, even the country, should go. So we think that this is also very important, step, which then represents that they're definitely on the right path, although in the early stages, but they already play an integral role in development of the port and the portscape, if I may say, which is definitely changing. So some of the conclusions which I would like to mention. Sorry, I just wanted to also mention Fit for 55. Of course, once again, the Western Balkan cannot neglect and completely, not pay attention to what is happening on the EU level. But what you need to understand in terms of the acquis, which is our also main goal in transport community, is the fact that we are transposing the EU acquis once the co-legislators, the Council and the Parliament, upon Commission's proposal, agree on the proposal. So Fit for 55 as the last, let's say, branch of the Green Deal in terms of transport is still under negotiations. There will be heavy debates in the Council, I'm sure, about that. So only once this will be agreed, the Western Balkans will be able then to start transposing. By then, of course, they have many more to transpose. But the thing is that if the pace will not be speeded up, the gap will just widen, and this is what we don't want to do. And this brings me to my conclusions, where I would like to mention is that, of course, increased investments in terms of critical resilience of the maritime infrastructure in terms of climate change are inevitable in all the European ports, and even more so in the Western Balkan core maritime ports. The greening of the port, which I mentioned, means much more than greening of the transport side. Industry players, local communities, they have to come together, and this is what we are working on to follow this green path, which should be irreversible. And we hope that this will be the case. And it's important that it's done in the broadest term possible. Even with these schemes of eco driving within the port areas and LED lighting and such small scale projects, which can then definitely have an impact, visibility, and the path to the future. So there is no leapfrogging. It's not possible. So Western Balkan ports cannot just jump over the stages of development, but they definitely need to be involved. And that's why sharing of experience is what we're doing, workshops with EU core ports, especially the ones that went quite far, such as Italy and Greece. We heard from Igoumenica. I was recently in Piraeus also. So there we need to get these experience and know-how for the Western Balkan ports to know to which path to take. And of course, as always, the availability of financing resources, but in the broadest terms possible, meaning IPA and Horizon, CEF, WBIF, EIB, and EBRD loans in terms of blending. This will be very important for the greening process of the maritime ports, and we will of course be working closely with our beneficiaries. So that is all from my side. Thank you very much, and I hope that I also managed to present the greening side in the Balkans in terms of the ports, which is definitely happening. It's ongoing, but the Western Balkan ports have even more challenges on this path. Thanks so much, and once again, thank you for inviting me. If there's any questions, you can also send them to me via my email that I've shared with you. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you to you, Christian. It is indeed very, very nice to see how you are committed on that. And I wish you, let's say, great success, because it's really difficult to agree with persons and to put all persons together around the table to find the right compromise.
Thank you.
So the next panelist, the next presenter is Bogdan Oldakovsky. He is since July 2006 General Secretary of the Baltic Ports Organization. So please, Bogdan.
Well, good morning, everybody, and I'd like to thank you very much for inviting me and BPO to share our view on the change of port industry. And what I'm going to present today is maybe a bit different angle. But first of all, I just would like to ask you if If this
Yes,
works.
we see your screen. Put in presenter mode.
Yes, it is.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
No.
That's strange.
Because we can see also the slide on the left. So.
Okay. Well, so maybe you can help me then. Maybe it would be better.
Okay, maybe we can share the presentation for you.
Sorry for that, but I thought that everything
No
works. But anyhow, so let's go. I would like to present you the impact of climate policies and regulations on the port sector. Of course, more from the Baltic perspective. And the question, would you please change the slide? The question that I would like to ask. Okay, but I think it's not the last version that I did send you, but okay, let's go on. I think the question that I'm going to ask is how the port industry will change because of the climate policy. The question is very important because, as you may expect, there's so much fossil fuel, for example, being handled in ports, including Baltic ports, and one of the main questions is how those volumes, will these volumes stay and for how long in ports? And this is the question I'm going to tackle. And if you go on, please, but shortly about Baltic Ports Organization. So we are the association of ports around the Baltic Sea. The dots is just the members, so all major ports, in fact, are all ports are our members from all countries. So we really have the good representation of the port sector in the Baltic. And our mission is, could you please change the slide? And our mission is to contribute to sustainable development of the Baltic. Sustainable development of the maritime sector, including ports, and by doing this, we believe that we increase the competitiveness, the whole competitiveness of the Baltic Sea region. Can you please go on? I think that's what you have been already seen in different presentations. So we do have a series of international agreements and policies, also those being implemented in European Union. Lastly, European Green Deal. Could you please change the slide? That was introduced, that was presented 2 years ago, and quite recently, of course, Fit for 55. It's a very, very ambitious goals affecting all actors, economic actors in European in Europe, including ports, but also shipping sector. Please go on with the next slide. And I just want to present you a few slides that represent the impact of changes. So, for example, this is the information from northern Sweden. You may know that northern Sweden, but also northern Finland is the place where there are quite many ore mining. So ore is being mined there, and either there are some productions of steel in that region or being exported from this region to the world. But now you can see that there are some new developments. So in this region, there are some announcements of the big steel production project. The difference is that the steel is going to be produced using green hydrogen instead of coke. So this is quite new development, and you can see that this big production may produce 5 million tons of steel every year. So this is quite a big announcement there. Could you please change the slide?
Mr. Ordokowski, we find the last version, so I can share.
Yeah, that's great because the
for
slide
the
should disappear, but okay. Sorry for that, but yes, you can start with that. That was just presenting the northern part of the Baltic, where all these ports associated with the mining of ore are located. So please go on with the next slide. This is just an example of some forecasts done by DNV, some reputed company, and they are expecting the change in world primary energy supply. So you can see on the left side how the energy supply will change over the years. There will be decreasing role of coal, gas, oil, and increasing role of other renewable sources like wind, solar, hydropower, biomass. And on the right side, you can see the electricity mix in Europe in year 2050. So almost no fossil fuel, only a small part, 4% of gas fired, but then no other fossil fuels. A big change for energy industry. Please go on. And this is, of course, the big question to Baltic ports, to many Baltic ports. This is just the example how the fossil fuel structure is at the recent times in the Baltic. So we can see crude oil, oil products, coal and coke, and gas in Baltic ports, increasing until year 2019, then drop, probably will go up again this year. The drop in last year was due to the pandemic, but you can see that these figures are quite high. It's almost 400 million cargo of fossil fuel in Baltic ports. It's about 40% of all cargo in the Baltic ports. Please go on. And a bit similar drawing showing the structure by country of coal and coke and the oil. You can see, especially in the coal and coke, that the role of Russian port in exporting coal is increasing. This was due to the fact that Russia has been building their own ports, and more cargo have been going through Russian ports instead of the other ports in the region. Please go on. And now, what we have now? We have now, for example, the development of offshore wind industry in Northern Europe, including Baltic. So you could see the big change of the production of energy from offshore wind energy. That graphs show it very clearly. Please go on. And of course, there must be also a logistics of the parts for offshore wind industry, and some of the ports are using this opportunity. And this is just the example of Port of Rona. Port of Rona is rather a small port located in island of Balkan, in the very center of the Baltic. Please go on with the next slide. So you could see the location of Port of Rona, centrally located, and this port saw the chance to become an offshore port for offshore wind industry. So they have built a new terminals, and now they're serving lots of new constructions of offshore wind farm in the Baltic. There's also a interesting concept by Danish government to establish the so-called energy island, and Bornholm is one of these energy island in Denmark, because this is a Danish island, but maybe we could leave this presentation about the islands for the next time. Please go on with the next slide. This slide also showing a big plans of building offshore wind farms in the Polish coastal waters. So on the left side, you could see this pink colors. It's going to be many new sites for offshore wind farm projects. In order to build such a offshore wind farm parks, you have to have infrastructure in the ports, and this is just the example of one of the port in Gdynia. They're planning outer port, and part of the outer port is dedicated to offshore base. The other part is just a container terminal. So with this new development, new ports are being built. Next slide, please. This has been already shown by my previous speaker from Antwerp, so I'm not going to repeat it, but of course, with this new development of new energy, some ports are seeing their role as a hubs, especially the ports like Antwerp or Rotterdam. They have to respond to these changes because they expect that the fossil fuel will be decreasing in next years. So please go on. Of course, there will be new fuels. It was shown by previous speakers. New fuels for shipping. You can see on the left side the structure of these new fuels. So you can see the increasing role of ammonia, for example. This is the red color, and also decreasing role of LNG for some time. Then they are expecting decrease of use of LNG after the year 2045. But at the same time, if you want to deliver new fuel like ammonium, you have to also secure all logistics. And this is just an example how different companies are expecting logistics pattern of ammonium. So next slide, please. And just to conclude my short intervention, as I said, it's a bit different angle. So what we can expect in next years. So we of course would expect much lower demand for fossil fuels on energy market. That means that energy transportation, also the shipping part of it, will go down. There will be simply less oil, less coal, less gas being transported by oceans. Then of course this is obvious that there will be less energy cargo in ports. Then what that means for ports and what are the opportunities? They will seek probably for new role and being a hub or playing a role in logistics of new fuel is one of the role. Some of them will respond to energy wind development, build a new installation ports, but also the service ports. So quite many different investments. New fuels for shipping, that's another area. And if you can go on with my last slide. So coming back to the main question, will climate policy affect the port sector? Yes, of course it will. Simply the ports needs to seek new revenues, new business model in order to exist, in order to be an active part in that sector. So that was my main message. The ports is going to be changed in next decades. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bogdan. It is very nice to see how many projects are also ongoing on the Baltic Sea. And of course, we are very keen to see them. No? I was already one time on Rohan Islands, and it's a very nice one.
Which one?
I was in the Rohan Islands.
Oh, okay.
It is a very nice one, and hopefully to see a new port terminal and everything there.
There are more islands, so you are very welcome.
Sorry for pronunciation. So the next presenter is Dario Bocchetti. He is energy saving manager, but also head of the Grimaldi Group Corporate for the energy saving and the innovation department. So Dario, if you are ready, please go ahead with your presentation.
Yes, good morning. I think my video should be enabled by the organization.
Just yeah,
okay. And I am loading the screen. If you can read it.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. So good morning again to you, and congratulations for this quick time schedule. Everybody is quite tight. So my name is Dario Bocchetti from Grimaldi Group. For who doesn't know us, we operate about 130 ships, mainly ro-ro, vehicle carrier, ro-ro passengers, so mainly cargo, which is trailers on the motorways of the sea in particular, but also through South America or North America, Greece, with other brands, which are Atlantic Container Line, Minoan, Fin Lines. And so in total, we have 6 companies under the brand. And as I said, about 130 ships and about 20 more under new building, mainly in Korea and China. I lead the department of the R&D, energy saving, innovation, and ship design. So we are, of course, very much engaged in all these towards the decarbonization. There is really so much ongoing and so much to do. It is well known the timeline of the legislation, especially at IMO level. We support as a ship owner, as the ICS, the International Chamber of Shipping, and a number of associations we participate with, including this Getting to Zero, the call to action for 2050. So we would like that at IMO level, there could be an alignment with the European target to have net zero in 2050. So we believe that this could be put as a target instead of the actual minus 50% of greenhouse gas. And at the same time, we felt a bit of frustration when the European Commission didn't support the proposal of the industry to set up an R&D fund at IMO level as an accelerator for the short-term measure towards the decarbonization. We have insisted to have such an R&D fund voluntary, which would have made a basket of 5 billion for R&D, but this was not supported by a number of states due to the like China and others for the known reasons, but unfortunately neither from the European Commission. The presentation somehow, okay, sorry. So when it is about the roadmap towards the decarbonization, so as a ship owners, we are at the moment a bit waiting that the technology will be developed by the big machinery producer like the main engines, because we can start to get ready to have a logistic of the ammonia or the future fuels. But at the same time, we have to buy such an engine by MAN, Wärtsilä, and the others. So it is, we count that both the engine manufacturers and the producer of the technology and the shipyard should be more present in this type of dialogue, because at the end of the day, the vessel is built into a shipyard, and the technology has to come from the maker of the engine and the other machineries in particular. What we are really focusing a lot on is especially related to the operational measures and in general to the energy saving, because despite of the new fuel, the best, let's say, renewable energy is actually the energy that you don't use at all. Despite of which will be the future fuel or which energy content it will have, if you manage to need less fuel and less power to move the vessel, this will be always a gain. So we focus and we work a lot on energy efficiency project, and from all the aspects, from the hull into the some renewable energies, batteries. We have almost 100 megawatt hours of battery installed on 20 vessels to deliver the zero emission import, even now that there is no cold ironing yet available. But at the same time, we are also preparing the ships for the future cold ironing. We work a lot on the hydrodynamic aspects, including the design of the hull and the redesign of bulbs, propellers, and these type of things. About the different existing solution, because we can speak a lot about ammonia, but nowadays what really exists are exhaust gas cleaning system, LNG, and batteries. And the statistics shows that even if there is an uptake, the numbers are still very small compared with the total fleet. We think that exhaust gas cleaning system and LNG are both transitional solution, which should not be indicated as heavily polluted, because the problem that we have today is that all this investment in shipping, they need some time. You cannot invest today and be supported, including by the European Commission, and after 5 years, they tell you that the technology is obsolete or is polluting, is not anymore sustainable. So we need to have some legislative certainty, and we need that for some years. We know that if we do an investment, this is in a way we will have the time to absorb it. It is about exhaust gas cleaning system that they were supported in 2015, including by funding from European Commission, and after 5 years now they would like to ban it. So this is not possible. So when we invest in a technology, we should have the support for at least the 10 years. Otherwise it becomes very difficult. And then when it comes to these new fuels, it is we are looking with a lot of interest, in particular to the ammonia. But there are some points that of course have to be done, and has to be green, produced by the renewable energy, and of course the price that today looks 3-4 times higher than existing fuel, or 10 times up to, it will be something that really needs to be yet developed. But and something else we are looking into with a lot of interest is the carbon capture, because with such exhaust gas cleaning system, we count that it will be possible partially to recover some CO2. But again, with the ROPAX, so the short sea services, the motorways of the sea, the main target that we have today is to use the battery or the cold ironing for the port, eventually electricity also for the maneuvering and moving into the sensitive area, and for the rest continuing using the diesel fuel, but potentially in the next future with some carbon capture to facilitate it. So we count a lot on the European strategy policies, and we hope that under the Innovation Fund and these things will be more possible to invest or to get an help in the investment that today, unfortunately, we don't see. Thank you.
Thank you, Dario. It is very important to have indeed a more pragmatic and also real approach on this energy transition. It's very appreciated to have the point of view also of ship operator, because at the end you are the final consumers of cold ironing or batteries or alternative fuels, and you have to deal with. As I said at the beginning, I really believe that the future is still uncertain, and there are not unique solutions. So we will have a multi-fuels future, multi-fuel technologies future. So I see that the best approach is always to improve what we have already. This is something what can be done, and sometimes can be also easily done. So when it comes to our agenda, we have, as usual, a delay. We have almost 20 minutes delay, even more. And we will come to the next, let's say, session, which is about questions and answers. I saw through the chat that many questions were already answered. So that I will jump to the next session, which is a round table. And in this session, we are going to, let's say, have an open speech about the BC Link project, for which I know that we have also very, very short presentation from Carles and from Pino. And for this reason, I maybe I will give the floor to Carles Rua, and to introduce a little bit about the BC project, and then also Pino Musolino will continue, and we will have an open floor speech. Thank you. Please, Carl.
Sorry. Thank you, Patrizio. Do you hear me?
Yes, very well.
I will try to share my presentation. One moment, please. It's this one. Okay. Do you see it?
Yet. Now, yes, but
not yet. One moment, I don't know where
it is. See now, but
it
not
works, but you need to put in presentation mode.
In presentation mode, okay. Now?
No.
No? It appears, I don't know, it appears, one moment.
Maybe Control L.
One moment, because I see. Let me see. One moment. I will try in another way. Share. Now?
Yes, now it works. Thank you.
Okay. Fantastic. I will try to explain what we are trying to do in terms of energy transition in the Port of Barcelona, and also how it links with our strategy and how we are trying to be helped by European funds to do this initiative. No? So first of all, I would like to say that the Port of Barcelona approved his fourth strategic plan just at the beginning of this year, and our vision for the future is to become a smart logistic hub. In fact, what we want is to be the smartest logistic hub in the Mediterranean. No, when smart, or the concept of smart, and also it's, I mean, it's the word smart, but also it's the acronym for sustainable, multimodal, agile, resilient, and transparent. So the first concept we want to promote inside the Port of Barcelona is the sustainability. And in order to do that, we have developed a strategic plan whose three main axes are related to sustainability. In fact, there are the three dimensions of sustainability, you know, the environmental sustainability, the economic sustainability, and the social sustainability. Related to that, we have started to develop some initiatives, some actions, some projects in order to become more sustainable. Focusing on the energy transition or on the environmental sustainability, we have a few we consider relevant actions that I will show you just now and how European projects can help in that. So the first one is that, as it has been stated before in this session, we have a challenge with energy transition because there are many elements to take into account. We have talked about energy production, energy business models. We have talked about ammonia, about methanol, about hydrogen, new fuels, decarbonization. I mean, there are many things that you have to, and we have been developing some initiative in many of them, but at the end, I think that it's quite necessary for all ports to have a roadmap to show where are you going with all these actions. No, in that way, one of our first initiative is to really have an energy transition master plan, how to reach the zero emission, how to become a zero emission port, and how to increase the production of green energy, and how to become more greener as a port. The second element is, sorry, are you looking at the presentation?
No, not.
Not.
No, it seems to.
It has. I don't know what I've moved. Probably now.
Oh,
now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now, yes.
Okay. So the second one is the development of new fields. In this topic, we are at this moment the first Mediterranean port in terms of LNG bunkering, but of course in the next future we will move to other fields like hydrogen, like ammonia, like methanol, like all you have talked. The third element, or the third key action we want to develop in the port, is the OPS, the onshore power supply, the connection of the vessels to the power grid. You know? This will mean for the Port of Barcelona a huge investment of more than 90 million euros that we will deploy during the next 5 to 7 years. But well, I will talk a little bit about this in a few minutes. No, the next elements to decarbonize the port activity is to foster two modes. The first one is the rail transport, to increase rail intermodality. At this moment, we are probably one of the we have one of the biggest shares in rail transport in the Med area, with more than 15% of intermodal traffic through rail. But we have to increase that. And I will talk to you about the strategy and how we are doing this question. The second, the second element is motorways of the sea. Motorways of the sea are one of the biggest elements to move from road, more pollutant to sea. No? So the development of short sea shipping traffic, substituting the road transport, is something quite interesting for the decarbonization of the port activity. And the second ones are power generation inside the port. Unfortunately for the Port of Barcelona, we do not have wind, or not. We do not have enough wind. We do not have tides. We do not have waves. That's fantastic for beaches, but not for power generation. So we only have sun. So mainly when we're talking about power generation inside the port area, we are talking about photovoltaic systems. Okay, and then, and this is quite related with all the previous elements, the energy management model that has been commented before by Dimitrios and some other speakers. So for most of this initiative, for these actions, we have tried to request some help from the European funded projects, no? And I will give you some of the initiative or the projects in which we are being involved. For the Energy Transition Master Plan, we are with Antwerp in Pioneers project. In Pioneers project, we are working in many demonstrators and as followers of Antwerp, we are trying to incorporate some of the developments of the Port of Antwerp. But one of the main interest is that it has to help us in the development of this master plan for energy transition. Okay, I will not repeat what Pioneers is because Inga has explained it quite well at the beginning. But also in terms of new field developments, we are also in another project. It's LNG Hive, a Connecting Europe facility project, in which we are developing a new bunker barge for LNG supply. Of course, this is something that will be finished in the next 2 years. But if you think about what's happening now with LNG and with the new fuels like hydrogen, ammonia, and methanol, we have to think that in the future there will be many different fuels to be supplied by ports. No, so we have to analyze. Because I'm not sure, and this is something to put a question mark in, if there is business for everything. I mean, as a Port of Barcelona or any port has to be able to supply all the possible fuels that they will have in the future as bunker. I mean, I have to have a fuel barge, a LNG barge, an ammonia barge, and a methanol barge, an hydrogen barge, or supply everything or not? So this is some question that we have to ask, because I think that the dispersion of fuels will be increased in the future, and any of them means a huge investment in terms of bunkering, storage, and facilities to serve the industry. Related to OPS, we are also participating in Ealing. Dimitrios has talked about this project before in the meeting. The idea is to identify, for us, this Ealing is for studies mainly. So what we want to do in this project is to identify the problems, the technical, the economical, and the regulatory problems that we have to face when developing the onshore power supply in the projects. But what we are not doing now is we will deploy our first actions or real actions to implement OPS in ports in 2 points. One in Best Container Terminal for supplying container vessels, and in the ferry terminals for, of course, for ferries. No, so those are the first works in terms of OPS we will face. And our idea is to ask for some recovery funds in order to help us. Okay. Another question is rail intermodality. The Port of Barcelona, during the last probably 15 years, has developed a network strategy. That means that as a port, we have tried to be involved in the inland development, with shares in some inland terminals, and fostering the development of rail services between the port and those inland terminals. In fact, the Port Authority itself shares or have shares in 8 different inland terminals, both in Spain and France, and also some other port operators has also shares in some inland terminals. But I mean, I think that this is a quite a beneficious initiative, that the Port Authority as a port entity is able to be involved in the inland development of rail services. Okay, and okay, this is correct, I think quite a success initiative, and also it helps us to develop a network of services that reach most of the Spanish hinterland, but also the European hinterland of the port. Okay. Related to that, what the Port of Barcelona also tries to develop, and also this is with the help of another European project, Connecting Europe Facility, is that we have not only to focus on what happens inside the port area, but also we want to invest in the improvement of the rail network out of the port area. So the Port of Barcelona will facilitate the development or the enlargement of sidings in many stations between Barcelona and Zaragoza. That means that there will be 10 stations in which we will try we will invest in order to get 750 length meter trains between both locations. That at this moment, Zaragoza is our main rail destination for the traffic in the Port of Barcelona. This is another probably innovative initiative. No? That means that the port is investing not only in the rail network inside the port, but also in the rail network out of the port. In terms of motorways of the sea, we are working with Civitavecchia in the Vessel Link project. That the idea is to improve the infrastructure for motorways of the sea in order to be able to host the new vessels, the new biggest and more sustainable vessels inside the Port of Barcelona. In our case, this is another Connecting Europe Facility project that we won inside the port. No, also Civitavecchia is involved in this project, but in Barcelona, what we want is to improve the Contradique wharf, because it's quite an old, it's from the 19th century wharf, and to increase the ro-ro ramp to host biggest vessels than now. Okay, and last but not least, in terms of energy management, we are starting some pilots for the creation of energy communities, and our first pilot in this concept is the creation of an energy community in the Fisherman's Wharf. The idea is to create a community with the fishermen's area, the ice factory, some facilities close to this area, and a restaurant here, in order to share consumptions and productions. That means there will be a simultaneous production, consumption, and a storage of energy. This is just a pilot to understand how it will work and how we can develop the business model for doing these kind of things. But the main idea is to replicate this in some other areas of the port, because as probably more ports has the same problem, that there are high consumers like container terminals or bulk terminals, but also there are some other terminals that really there can be big producers like car terminals, because they are big parkings that you can cover with solar panels, and you can get a lot of energy from that. No? But they are not using that energy. So the creation of energy communities in the port, I think that is one of the biggest probably initiative that ports has to develop in the next future. And from my side, that's all. I've tried to adjust my time
Thank you, Carles. Is also very interesting. Unfortunately, we are already in delay and not having so much time. In fact, I would like to say sorry to everyone because probably we need to extend for 10-15 minutes our event, and probably we are going to close around 12. So now it's the time for Pino Musolino, is the President and CEO of the North Central Tyrrhenian Seaport Authority. So please, Pino.
Well, hello, good morning, everybody. I apologies, but this slightly late may force me to not being able to attend the whole event because I have another schedule. Actually, I have a board meeting, that's it. So I unfortunately, this is kind of messing me up a bit. Thank you for having me here. I've got a short presentation mainly about the BC link. So I may try to share it. Hold on a sec. And then I put you on the full screen. Don't worry. 5. Nope. Hold on a sec. There we go. Anyway, the short presentation is about the BC link particularly, which is what we were discussing today. So I made narrow the scope in respect to what Carles was explaining. But essentially, well, can I make it just short celebrative note? We have achieved yesterday an historical result in terms of TEN-T, because Civitavecchia finally has been inserted into the network as a core network. Surprisingly, we were not one. For more than 20 years, we tried to, and finally yesterday, the EU Commissioner Vălean has announced that we have finally become a core port in the TEN-T infrastructure. So this map particularly is kind of like has to be updated, because now finally we are also one of those white dots with a black circle, and it's a great day for us, and even more strengthening our commitments to European cooperation and projects. Well, essentially, what is the BC link? Is essentially a project that develops along the Motorways of the sea. As you know, well, Civitavecchia is historically one of the main MOS ports in Italy, and particularly connecting our main islands of Sardinia and Sicily. But then in the years we have developed strong connections also with other ports, particularly with Barcelona. And the project in itself, essentially on our side, to activity 1 was the completion and the making of pier number 2 in the new Ro-Ro dock and Ro-Ro terminal, which has been already completed. You can see that here on this slide. We have actually completed the whole project, so we are ready and operative, and actually we are also planning to complete the infrastructuring with a new bid for long-term lease and concession of the whole terminal. So we have built a pier 240 meters long, which is essentially the same, the maximum size of or was the maximum size of the main Ro-Ro vessels in service, even though now things are kind of changing, and we are kind of updating that, developing new infrastructures as well. And these the main result, or the main collateral result of this infrastructure is also that through this we are moving away from the city center some very heavy traffic related to Ro-Ro and trucks. In this way, we are increasing the quality of the life of the Civitavecchia citizens, and improving the efficiency and operations of the vessels mooring there. Of course, I didn't mention, but you could see that from the picture, the private operator that is at the heart of this project is clearly Grimaldi Group, which on both sides of the project, of the link, we're working and developing together. I'm saying this since I've seen Mr. Bocchetti, who is also connected. And well, I don't want to bother you with major details, and since we have a time constraint, I'm trying to go fast. What I am proud the most is that we have completed perfectly within the time frame all the infrastructure in part. So for once, Italy has proved that we can be up to the task, and the infrastructure is completed. I won't go into the part of Barcelona because, of course, my colleague has already touched it. But well, of course, the project management will end in 2023, but we can see already the significant impact in terms of results and objective expected that we are achieving. So we even if we are halfway, a little bit more than halfway through, we can say that the project is definitely proving efficiency and effectiveness. And so well, just to give some figures as well, there were like a significant staff contribution and a significant Port Authority involvement. So we can say that when these sort of connectivity projects are developed with the right mix of ambition and rationality and feet well sticking on the ground, things are working, and these sort of projects are effectively proving their need to have them more and more, and the capacity to have a positive impact on connectivity first, but also in general on intermodality and the abatement of emissions and the increase of positive outcome for the territory, not just for the ports of the commercial activities. I hope that this initial presentation was fast enough, but also complete enough to give you an idea of what has been so far the BC Link for us, and I have completed this part.
Thank you, Pino. You are the fastest speaker of today, so you will be awarded with the prize for that. It's very nice. It's all from, let's say, to see all these contributions from a port's perspective, from, let's say, associations, from university, from also other, let's say, companies who are involved as a stakeholder in this big challenge. Now we go for, let's say, for a open speech. Let's say we will have everyone will have let's say possibility to talk and to reply of some questions. Pino, in case you need to leave, of course you can do it, and please don't.
I may stay around for another 10, maximum 15 minutes, but then I'm sorry, I really have to go.
Okay, then we can start with you probably, because I have some questions in my mind, and I would like to be a little bit more, let's say, practical, because I am an engineer, I am a marine engineer, I sailed also on ships, so it is for me quite important to maybe to make some questions which are a little bit more technical. So in particular, I would like to ask you, Pino, which are the main, let's say, challenges from technical, economical, and legislative point of view for the development of cold ironing in ports?
Wow, that's a very good question. Please, sorry, was that the question? Yeah. Okay, well, you know, I mean, let's say that cold ironing has been a sort of like a phoenix throughout the market for many years, and many are pointing at it as the silver bullet solution. I think that, as also very esteemed colleagues were saying in the former panels, the solution doesn't sit on a single action. In terms of decarbonization, we need to work on several different solutions, combining and blending them into a bigger frame. I usually use the metaphor of a pixel. You know, in order to make a big picture, you need to make a lot of different pixels, and the different pixels are the actions that we're taking in order to decarbonize. There won't be a one solution. Cold ironing is one of the main actions. I do see at the moment some hurdles that are normally not really deeply tackled. One is the small amount of vessels compared to the totality of vessels that can be defined as plug-in ready. And even in the next future, the order books of the shipping companies, either cruise lines and non-cruise lines, commercial ships, they are not so big that are justifying somehow big investments in large and huge investments in terms of capex to provide these infrastructures. The second point is that there is still a lack of harmonization of standards, and this is a problem. I mean, you are an engineer, so you can appreciate that better than me. So if we are building these infrastructures, then we need to be sure that, well, as somebody said before me, they can't be obsolete in a very short period. That doesn't make any sense in terms of financial feasibility. On the other hand, they also need to be standardized. So we can't just you know, have it's not like an adapter for the mobile phone, you know, so you can't build 3, 4, 5 different adapting systems. It's very expensive and not really wise. And the main, I would say, at least to my perspective, the main elephant in the room is how do we provide the energy necessary for feeding the cold ironing from carbon-free sources, because otherwise we are just making a very NIMBY solution. Yeah, we don't pollute anymore, and we move the moment of emission from the berth to 250 kilometers inland, where the power plant is, if the power generating process is based on carbon fossil sources. So these are 3 big issues. Then I can add a couple of them more. At the moment, at least I speak for the Italian system, we do not have any measure as a port authority to incentivize or provide some advantages to the guys that or to the ship owners that are willing to come with greener vessels or better vessels or vessels already equipped for the cold ironing. So we don't give any prize, and so nothing that make the whole thing more appealable to act immediately. And on the other hand, we are at the moment aiming at a very non-scalable cold ironing system. So also that will be very complicated, because it doesn't give enough flexibility on the berth layout for the not of the vessels of today, but of the vessels of the future. We don't know yet. So any investment should be based on at least a shelf life of 10 years ahead minimum, if you consider the huge amount of capex involved. So these are the things that we are taking into account in order to develop an efficient and possibly a very effective in terms of impacts cold ironing system. And the last bit, we will receive quite a large chunk of money from the recovery fund aimed at this. But I'm afraid I would like to take those money and put them at the best of the use, not only for the port, but for the whole European system, without risking to make infrastructures that won't be used or won't be used at the full of their potential capacity once we make them. So these are the main hurdles I can see when we are thinking and talking about cold ironing, at least from my perspective.
No, yes, it's okay. I understand quite well. I have also a little bit the same ideas on that. The only point is we have to start doing something, no? And even if we know that there are some uncertainties for the future, or even if we know that it's difficult to do a capex analysis or something, anyhow, we have to do something. And of course, this should be supported by European Commission, by authorities with the financial aids and everything what is in their forces, let's say. Carles, you see you are on the same page as Pino in respect of development of cold ironing. So how is the situation maybe in Spain? If is it a little bit different or suffering the
same? More or less the problems are exactly the same. First of all, you have to take into account the technical problems, that there is no standardization, as the president has said, but also we have some regulatory boundaries, because at the end there is no a way in which port authorities can easily start with the power business, no? Because we are ports, we know how to manage vessels, how to make a berth call for a vessel and that kind of things. But you say, okay, you have to enter in the business of electricity and to sell and produce and so on. This is not on the law. This is not written. It's we don't know how to do that, and we don't know if we can do that. No, okay. So we need an adaptation of the regulations. At least in Spain, maybe in other countries it's easier. But at this moment, if you read the ports law and the power system law, the electricity law, it doesn't fit one with the other. I mean, as a port, I cannot make a direct commercialization of the energy.
But of course, you could create a joint venture with the local.
Yeah, but you have to create a joint venture. Yeah, there are many business models, but you need a regulatory framework in order to do that, to know that what you are doing is right. The other element is the business at the end, no? The profitability of all of these things. I don't know, but for the post, but our analysis seems that everybody will lose money with this onshore power supply. First, the post has to make a huge investment. That means that, of course, it's our part of the complete, and we have to do that, like. Probably we have to do the breakwaters or some other big infrastructure, okay? But this is a big investment that probably it will not be recovered never, because we are talking in our case that we have like Civitavecchia with cruise vessels is you need a huge amount of power supply. So we need a new high voltage connection with the grid that it's not existing now, because if not, we cannot connect the cruise vessels or most of our vessels. That means a new substation. That means, so you have to develop a new complete electric infrastructure that it will cost tens of maybe 100 million euros. So it's not cheap. But then, I mean, you have to take into account that the fuel is very cheap. Probably Dario doesn't agree with that, and he considers very expensive. But compared with other fuels at this moment, it's very cheap. So the best solution from the profitability point of view is okay, continue like now, no. Now there is a situation in which a few years ago, before the pandemics, LNG was cheaper than fuel, but now fuel is marine fuel is cheaper than LNG. That means that some vessels that were working in a dual engine have changing, no? So they are now polluting more than 2 years before because that reason. That means that the prices of the energy is something that you have to take into account, because if you are not able to propose a price that will fit with all businesses here, the energy provider to get some income, the ship owner in order to not distort their account and so on.
Yes.
What's the
okay, then I would suggest that Dario has to build more vessels with battery shore power connection in order to sustain the profitability of cold ironing. Dario, what do you think about which is your opinion on that? So it's really like that probably cold ironing it's difficult to be developed because it's missing let's say an economical background for that.
We also, I mean, if it was 5 years ago, probably would have been another discussion, but from where we are today, as Pino said, the money are coming, so we have to look at the best way to do it, despite of thinking anymore if it is something that probably there were alternatives, but also in the car industry, there were alternatives which were different to the electric car. Nowadays, if you listen what they say about the electric car life cycle impact, probably is same with the diesel car, or let's say the green, not the diesel, but the petrol one. But in any case, I agree with both. And what is a bit frustrating is that you prepare the cold ironing, the plug, but then if you move 100 meters on the berth, maybe the plug cannot move 100 meters. So it's very much, it's more for Japanese ship owner that they always go there all their life, don't move, they make the vessel that is done for that purpose. No? We Mediterranean are a bit more flexible. And something that cold ironing need to be developed further is that today is not very flexible. But it is very good to have the dialogue with the ports, because at least the characteristic of the plug have to be the same. When I go in UK, I have to bring my adapter, otherwise I cannot connect my laptop. This don't have to happen with cold ironing for ships. So the standards have to be the same. With the same plug that I use in Civitavecchia for Europax and Roro, I have to be able to use the same plug also when I go in Barcelona, in Valencia, and moving in Mediterranean. So standard of the plug have to be discussed in order not to have problems in this respect. As a ship owner, what we see is the competitiveness. If I have to resume in one word, the competitiveness is important. So this means, as Carles was saying, that if tomorrow, if the LNG is has a higher price than MGO, unless there is a legislation that forces me to use LNG, I will switch back to MGO. Because I make the business case and I am a ship owner. So when it is about electricity, we should be ensured that at least until 2030, the tariff of the electricity will be competitive with the alternative legislative fuel. So I mean, if the law imposes the marine diesel at berth, I need that the price of electricity should be linked to that price, and I should not go and pay twice because there have been a huge investment and then the cost goes to the operator. So the cost of such investment infrastructure should not end up on the operator. If I have the new car, I cannot pay the electricity more because somebody had to do the infrastructure. So the cost of the electricity to end user should be controlled and eventually should be lower than the marine diesel, because I also have to spend a lot of money to adapt the vessel.
Okay.
So this was in brief. I will put mute 1 minute because I changed my position and I am back to you in 30 seconds.
Yes. So it's really interesting to see that then sometimes the dreams are not matching with the reality, because we are all here. Yeah, then later on in our daily work business that we have to overcome some challenges which seem to be still there. But maybe, Carles, do you think that all policies and initiatives from the European Commission, like Alternative Fuel Infrastructure Directive, Fuel EU Maritime Initiative, ETS, Emission Trading System, 54-55, I mean, they are enough. They are, let's say, the only initiatives which are needed, or do you believe that something more is needed, or also an additional approach should be considered? Please, Carles.
My personal opinion is that the initiatives are in general good for the objectives they are trying to develop. Sometimes the problem is how to implement them, no? How the regulation itself, no? The detail, no? Because I mean, it's easy to say, or it's possible to reach an agreement. No, we need to decarbonize ports, and we need to put some objective about reduction of 50% or 100%, or to become the zero emission continent in 2050, and so. Those declarations are quite good, and I agree with them. But when you start to talk about the details of how to do that, and mainly in a port environment where investments are absolutely huge for ports, but also for ship owners. I mean, we are not talking. I mean, if I buy a new computer and I don't know, you have a high consumer, but in 3 years I will have another computer, and that's not a problem, no? Because I will move from one to another in few years. But a port infrastructure or a vessel will be here for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. A new wharf for supply. If we need to construct a new wharf, for example, for supply new energy fuels like ammonia, it will be here for hundreds of years probably. So. If you give a concession for one, I don't know, oil company to supply methanol or to supply ammonia, so that will be for 20, 25, 30 years. You can assure the market in that way. If Dario constructs a new vessel on ammonia or with methanol or something like that, that vessel will not be here. Oh, in 2 years we have changed opinion, and now we have realized that ammonia emits a lot of NOx, and we don't want this kind of vessels now. No, that vessel will be here 20 years or 25 years. So you cannot. You need to be sure about the regulations you are putting on place, no? Because if you take decisions on that, then you have to support that decision for many years.
No, I completely agree.
And if I create a new terminal for, I don't know, methanol, no, for methanol bunkering and all the installations, and I mean, they have a business plan for 25, 30 years.
But the idea would be also to create an infrastructure which is flexible in terms of fuels to be bunkered. I know that technologically is problematic, but if all efforts are in that direction to, for instance, to have an infrastructure able to manage methanol, ammonia, and let's say like a process plant, like an industry plant, it maybe this could be the solution also for in terms of absorbment of all investment costs. This is something what is coming in my mind when I'm thinking about the fact that there are engine makers who are now trying to have a multi-fuel injection system. So they don't know if it will be ammonia or methanol or hydrogen. However, they would like now to design engines with the possibility that with the small upgrade, they could change the injection system. So this kind of approach, why not to use also for the bunkering infrastructure? Of course, the investments, the sides are quite different, the legislation is very different and so on. but at least as idea, as a possible way to not having this problem, let's say. Yeah. Okay, and maybe another question, because I really, this is also my experience about the risk perception. We know that onboard people, Dario, so the crew and also masters and so on, they are quite used to estimate risks, to estimate hazards during the navigation, during the operation and so on. But in general, do you think that risk perception indeed of people, communities who are living around the port or who are, let's say, passengers on your vessel, this risk perception could be an obstacle to the development of alternative fuels? Please.
Thanks. So first, I have to say to Pino that I have Barcelona port behind, but I miss in this room the Civitavecchia port. But we are very much focused on the beach link as well. So when it is about electricity, I think that that's fine. So there is no, but in general, yes, the risk perception is very much linked to eventual accident that will happen. So at the moment, everything is fine. Everybody is looking for the decarbonisation as a target, but in case there should happen some accidents in the next future, then the perception will change. Now, so the risk perception, the risk is high, even if nowadays everybody is fine. And everybody don't see any problem with this fuel, but we have to be careful because unfortunately, heavy fuel oil and diesel oil for ships are too good from this point of view.
Yeah, I think. You
need a very high temperature for the ignition of the heavy fuel oil. If you don't have 180 degrees, it doesn't burn. It's a problem to burn. Diesel, not so much, but it's not so easy anyhow. Also, in terms of energy content, they are very good. This is why it's so difficult to get rid of it. They are cheap, good, and also and the risk quite low. Yeah. So a lot of work needs to be done. But on the other hand, we have ships on LNG every day. So I think this will not be a problem for the development. But it is true that we don't have to forget that it is all a different story in terms of training and people on board cannot be left to the end, because this is something that needs to grow all together because it's very new and very different, and it is very important that it is developed at all levels. And this is a very big change, including LNG is a big change for the crew.
Yeah, I experienced it because I started with gas carriers, let's say at RINA as a surveyor, and then later on I was having here in Hamburg the Ivanova in 2015, and of course I was not sleeping so much comfortable at the beginning. You can imagine, I was in charge for the classification of the plant, of the LNG plant. But this is the point. So risk perception can be lowered if, of course, you are getting familiarized with the technology, with the fuel, if you understand how it works, no? Because at the end, many people, or the most part of people, they don't know exactly what is an alternative fuel, what is ammonia, what is methanol or LNG or something else. However, now, as usual, the time is flying and we are almost 12, is almost 12. So I would like really to thank you for being here, for having your speech. And of course, we have some main takeaways of today's event. The first one is about the collaboration, that all stakeholders are called to cooperate, and they have, let's say, the honor to, let's say, to be part of this process. So authorities, class, ship operators, brokers, banks, insurance companies. Okay, some of them are not here today, but ports, yards, and the manufacturers, they have to give their inputs, otherwise we cannot move on. The sustainability strategy is not, let's say, only one. So everyone has to select their own roadmap, considering own capacity, considering own needs. And it is clear that we have 3 pillars. So the low carbon, carbon neutral fuels, possible well to wake, no? Because we listen a lot of discussion, tank to wake, well to wake, but it should be well to wake. Fleet and ports performance, because it's unuseful to do everything if maybe a vessel is stay at anchorage for 1 day because there is no entry to the port. Let's say this is another important aspect of what we have not addressed. And then shore power connection, cold ironing, all operational measures which could be implemented on board, but also during the port stay of the ship. We should be not afraid of the novel technologies, of alternative fuels. We have to try always to identify and mitigate the risks and hazards. The ports has a new role. It's not just the quay where you are coming to moor, but it will come more and more an extended part of the ship. And let's say the interconnection and the interface between the ship and onshore, so it means the town, the city. So if we talked about port as energy hubs, power provider, electricity trader, so the role of the port is changing, will change in the next future. Today, Inge was talking about execution of project. We are missing them, in fact. So we need project. We need to gain this knowledge and to get familiarized with all challenges, what we will have. And it's important to really say, okay, this is my target, this is my goal. But now I have to do something. I have to work. I have to produce, to create, to develop a design, and then later on to execute. And I believe that only in this way we can, in fact, demonstrate then the readiness and also the, let's say, the safety of novel technologies and alternative fuels. So once again, I would like really to thank you, and I wish you a good work days for this afternoon, because everyone has to go back to daily business. And of course, we are here. Thank you also to all the guys of EU Connectings for preparing the events, and also later on for making follow-up of questions and to support us. So thank you very much, and I wish you all the best, and of course fair winds for your ships, but also for your projects in general.